Hello, everyone, and welcome to Consciousness is Sexy. I'm your host, Patty Alfonso, and today is an adventure into the unknown, I suppose. I had sent out an email earlier asking everyone what it is that you guys wanted to talk about. So I'm very happy that a lot of you have shown up. And then I took an Uber down to Miami for a date. And on the way down, what showed up to play with on the show was the title, When the Fog Rolls In. And I was inspired by the call that I had this morning on the series Being a Phantasm. And this topic came up a little bit around, this fogginess that has come up for a few people in the last week or so. And I was actually talking to another facilitator, and she was also saying that she had this sense, and I was talking to several facilitators actually, that they had this sense that there was just this like sludge that we were having to kind of, get through. And for a couple of days for me, it had shown up as this kind of fogginess that I couldn't get clarity with, and I was asking questions, but nothing's really shifting and moving, and it just was a really, really, really interesting energy. And it's part of why I didn't really have a topic for today, because like everything was just kind of flat, which was really interesting. And as I was perceiving that energy of that fog, which I'll tell you, I kind of, reached out energetically to Dane, and I was like, Dane, what the fuck? And then I passed out, and then I had like my body just sort of started, I don't know how to explain it, but anyway, all this energy started coming through, and all of this orgasmic sexual energy with my body. And then there was just kind of like this just of energy that I was aware of while I was sleeping, because my body was sleeping, but the being, was still awake. And then I remembered that he's doing the Joy of Orgasmic Living class in Vienna. I think it's right now as we speak, or maybe a little earlier. And then the fogginess shifted and changed, and things started becoming more clear. And I was perceiving that energy and being present with that energy. And what I realized was that I got to this point recently where I looked at my life, and I have pretty much created a lot of what I had always wanted to create, a successful online business that I can do anywhere, anytime, travel all around the world, speaking, international speaking engagements, media, news, interviews. I mean, everything that I have desired to create in my life. I've written a couple of books. I've collaborated with some amazing people. And so I was at this point where I was just kind of like, well, now what? Now what's next? And I had got the awareness, with a few wedgies from Gary and Dane along the way, that I still wasn't creating big enough. Like I was creating, and yet that there was still so much more. And I was like, okay, well, what is that? And I made the demand, somehow energetically, verbally, and just like the demand of, okay, what is next? What is next for Patty Alfonso? What else can I create? What else am I here to create? And what would it be like if everything that I have created would expand beyond anything that I could have imagined? And then the inclusion of more people in my life, and creating with more people, and receiving people in a different way. And what was that going to create? And so this fogginess that sort of showed up, got created, was in my space, in my universe recently. I'm just now becoming aware that And I did talk about a little bit about this last week, that well, it never shows up the way you think it will. And when you ask and you have a demand for something, then the things that need to be cleared in order for you to have that something start showing up. And we were talking about this fogginess in the class today, and I was looking at what questions can we ask when we're in that space of taking a leap to something greater. When all of our stuff kind of comes up and things start shifting and changing and falling off and new creations start arising, like what questions can we ask so that we don't make that space a wrongness? We don't go into, because there were a couple of days really, there was a lot shifting and changing for me, and I've talked about it in the last couple of shows since going to the Matthew Hussey retreat and everything that's happened. And so there was that space sometimes in that fogginess where I was sleeping way more than I normally require sleep, where I was like, that tiny moment of, okay, is my life over? Like, am I just done? You know, what else can I create? Is there anything else for me to create? And going into the wrongness of that space. So I started asking, you know, what potency am I refusing that I could be choosing? And then I started playing with, you know, what if there isn't anything wrong right now? What if this is the change that I've been asking for? And it's funny because, you know, as facilitators, and you guys know, you ask questions with your friends and your family and whoever, and you give these questions to people, and it opens up a space for them, and then we kind of forget sometimes to use them on ourselves. And so I started using the questions that I mostly give to my clients and stuff on myself, and it was awesome. How does it get better? So what potency was I refusing, and what was right about that fogginess and that space of change and that sleep that I wasn't getting? And it was interesting because yesterday I totally just let go and I surrendered into the space of totally doing absolutely nothing. I literally just laid in bed. I watched a lot of Hulu and Netflix. I asked Dane for contribution. I slept a lot, and I was like, I am just going to be in this space and not make myself wrong. And that was actually what created more than trying to push through that sludge or that fog, or trying to figure it out, or trying to come to conclusion or make decisions about what was going on and what was happening. It very much was the change that I have been asking for. And I don't have such a super clear sense of what is next for me to create, but I do know that I create in every 10 seconds. I do know that every choice is a creation. So in these 10 seconds, I'm just going to keep choosing and choosing and choosing and following the energy of what is light and expansive. And I have actually made the demand of only choosing what is 1,000 trillion, 1,000% light and expansive for me. Not a little bit light with this is heavy, but I'm gonna, justify why I'm gonna choose it anyway. Or like I am truly going to really, really follow the energy of everything and choose based on 1,000% lightness. So I'm really curious about what will be next and what I will create. And I'm curious about what you all want to create and what is next for you and what has been going on for you in the last couple of weeks. I know that there's been a lot of shifting and a lot of changing, that a lot of us have been going through these kind of uncomfortable spaces of not really having clarity about what's next, or having clarity about what you want to choose, or maybe choices aren't so clear in these 10 seconds. And I don't know, it's a really, really interesting space that is being created right now that I am really excited to explore. And it hasn't been the easiest in the last few days. I'm really used to, like, I'm a really active person, and I love creating and just like going and going. Like, I love that energy, and being in that space of just a lot of sleep and not a lot of doing hasn't exactly been super comfortable. And I'm also aware that there is a generation of energy that is taking place. So there's three, when it comes to creating something, there's kind of three ways, three energy. It's like generation, creation, and institution. And generation is that space where the energy is being generated for what it is that you want to create. And it shows up in many, many different ways. And so I've been in that energy and really wondering and asking questions about what that is and what's next, and it's just been a really interesting space. So I would actually like to hear from you. What's it been like for you? What is coming up for you? What can I contribute to you? What can we contribute to each other? I did get a question sent in via email that I would like to play with, but since you guys are all here live, does anyone have any questions about this or anything else that you would like to play with in the next few minutes? You can go ahead and either unmute yourself or you can put something into the chat. It's up to you. Yeah, how does it get better? Yes.
Yes, hi everybody. I have a question about the fact that you spoke about is sleep. You needed more sleep than usual. Mm-hmm. I have heard during classes that the body can be sleeping, but the being is still creating. Could you please tell more about that?
Sure.
Because for me, I sleep a lot, and I thought that it was I wasted my time during my sleep, but now I feel that a lot of things happen during my sleep, but it's not very clear.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I did kind of mention that while I was rambling on, and it's a great question. I was actually having a conversation with a friend, and she had the same kind of, I'm going to plug this in for a second just so we make sure that the sound is good. She this thing and she fell asleep, and I was watching her before this. Let's just say it was a guided meditation, a guided visualization, just so we have clarity with words. And I was watching her, and I could perceive that there was something there was something going on with her, and she was going through something. And so we went into this guided meditation visualization, and we came out, and she came and was talking to me, and she was like, oh, I totally passed out. But there was this energy of wrongness, like I missed it. I passed out and I missed it, and I was sleeping, and that sucks. And I looked at her and I was like, well, do you know what that is? And she's like, yeah, I'm totally dissociating, was the word that she used. And I was like, no, sometimes in order for the change, there's a lot of different variations here, so I'll try to touch on all of them. Sometimes for the change to get created, the body has to go to sleep. And yes, the body sleeps, and the being is being and awake and doing things and traveling and whatever that is for you, whatever that looks like. And so when I said this to her, she was like, huh. And so this, this reality, this world that we live in, if you sleep a lot, then you must be depressed. And if you sleep a lot, then there must be something wrong with you. And, there's all of this wrongness around rest and relaxation and sleeping. And what we play with Access Consciousness is the point of view that if your body requires rest, that you should just give it to it. And what if there is nothing wrong with that? And for me personally, in these last couple of weeks, I've actually moved through something that was really, really deep for me and very, very potent for me. And there was a lot of locked up, stuck energy in my body that I was holding. And in the release of that energy, my body required to sleep a lot. And I didn't make myself wrong for that. I was slightly frustrated because there's a bajillion things I'd rather be doing than sleeping. And I was also really aware that it was just something that my body required. So are you sleeping? Look, you can ask questions. Do I require this additional rest? Is this the change that I've been asking for? Is there something being created here that I may not be aware of? And in the last year or so, I've actually become really aware of the times when my body is sleeping and me, the being, is awake, and I'm aware that I'm awake, and I'm aware that my body is sleeping, and I'm aware that I'm creating something, and I'm aware that I'm going somewhere, but I'm not necessarily totally 100% aware of what that is yet, right? So what would it take for that kind of clarity? And, you know, how much fun can you have exploring that and playing with that and seeing what that is? I think it's really cool. Like when I was like, dang, what is this? Like, you know, and I was like, calling out to him to just kind of contribute to me and to my body. And I literally called out to him, then I went clunk and I passed out. My body passed out, but I was awake. I was perceiving, you know, the whatever he was contributing, whatever his being was contributing to me and to my body. And my body was shaking and moving, and like my arms were flailing, and I was like, wow, this is kind of cool, you know. And in that sleep, and in that awareness, I was like, oh, that's right, the joy of orgasmic living is happening. And there was just this buildup of energy and then this release of orgasmic energy. And I was like, oh. And it was that sort of release of energy and aliveness that shifted that kind of fog. And I don't know that I would have been able to receive all of that had my body been awake. There was something about my body having to be in that restful, receiving, relaxed state. Like when we sleep, our bodies are actually relaxed. Our beings are more relaxed. And I just saw this Facebook post recently about in order to receive, you have to relax. And I've been looking at that, you know, a lot since I saw that Facebook post. Like, am I relaxed here? Is my body relaxed? Am I receiving? So I hope. Do you have something else with that?
Oh yes, because I just realized when I am in that deep state of relaxation, just I don't know if I am sleeping or not. It's just in the, you know, in the between. I feel a kind of discomfort in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a pain, but I'm not very, it's a discomfort, and maybe, I don't know, it's a conclusion or an awareness. It's a kind to not receive, because if I let go everything, if I am completely relaxed, I will receive everything. But at that moment, I am just focusing on that discomfort, and it's.
So what, okay, so if we didn't define that as discomfort, right? So what is that? What is that sensation that you're aware of? That if it wasn't discomfort, what information is your body gifting you with that sensation? And anything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive that, will you destroy and create it?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all night, Schwartz, boys, beyonds. That's the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. You can go to theclearingstatement.com to find out more about it. But it's just a magic wand. So you know, I've been So I've been doing a lot of energy polls and participating in some of those energy polls that people have been doing. And it was actually Denise Hughes did earlier this I just gonna mute yourself if it's crappy. And she was saying something really interesting about these energy polls, and she guided us in an energy poll, and then she said something like, any energy that comes up, gosh, what did she say? Hold on. I think it was an energy poll around money. And she said, whatever heaviness you may perceive, just push it out and just release it. So when you are in that relaxed state and you notice a kind of heavy sensation, then can you just, okay, what is that? And what molecule do you need to turn in order to shift that sensation? And can you just push it out of your universe and see if that shifts and changes it? So what happens when we define things as painful or discomfort, or, when we define it, then we actually end up kind of locking it into our bodies. So what is this energy? What information is my body giving me? Is this mine? When we're really relaxed and we're really expanded and we are really we're receiving a lot of information from a lot of different places. So is that perception, is that sensation really even yours? And everything that brings up, can we destroy and create it? Right, wrong, good, bad,
yes.
So Marlise says, thank you so much for bringing up all around. Last week it was really hard to fall asleep. I was so restless. I knew it wasn't mine, but I couldn't let it go. Yeah, I mean, that happens too. We're so aware of all of the energies all over the world. And so, for me, when I'm a little bit restless and I can't fall asleep, it helps to just really, really expand my energy out farther than anything I could have ever imagined, and even farther than that. Doing a lot of return to centers. And there's a clearing, I think, what energy, space, and consciousness can me and my body be to slumber with total ease, and anything that doesn't allow that can we destroy and create it, right and wrong, good and bad, talking puddle, insurance, boys, me. I do want to get to this question that was emailed in. So she wanted to remain anonymous, and she says, I've not been able to allow myself to relax and enjoy being touched by my partner who loves me dearly. We both don't get what happened, except we've been through a lot of tragic events. And I'm not going to go into the detail. She says, not sure with these tragic events if that's when my body shut down. Is there some clearing that would assist in clearing whatever my body might have taken on and locked down? I've had my own sexual abuse and done a lot of healing on that. I'm not sure if my body has caught up. What would it take for me to be able to have fun with my body and also with my partner with ease? Thank you for listening and creating a safe place to ask something so deep and so personal. Thank you so much for your question. And I'm wondering, with the tragic event that you mentioned, your partner's daughter, I'm wondering if she's still around and what it is that your body is trying to heal her from that tragic event. I would, with you and your partner, get your bars run and add the trifold sequencing systems to the running. Like when you run the bars, just ask the trifold sequencing systems to run at the same time. For those of you who don't know, so the bars are a hands-on process on the head, and the tribal sequencing systems is another hands-on body process, which actually, when there's a traumatic experience, sometimes we create a loop around that trauma and we can get stuck in that loop of trauma. So the tribal sequencing systems is one of the access consciousness body processes, which helps to unwind that trauma and get us out of that loop that we can get stuck in. And she did mention, you know, that she thinks she locked something in after this, you know, horrendous event that her and her partner had, you know, experienced. And if, you know, please feel free to send me another email if this isn't, if you require more support, I'm happy to do that. But yeah, get your bars run, tribal sequencing systems, and then whatever your body is actually trying to contribute. I think that those two body processes will help to do that. Awesome. Marlise says, what else is possible? How does it get better than that? How does it get any better than that? Any last minute questions before we wrap up? I'm not very good at sticking to one topic for the entire show. I'm noticing how I kind of go a little bit everywhere. And so for those of you crazy phantasm that can follow my I'm grateful for you being here, and I appreciate it. Does anyone else have any other questions? So when the fog rolls in, is this the change that you've been asking for? What potency are you refusing? And what can you surrender into? What can you let go of that will actually contribute to clearing that energy and opening the space for something new to show up? How does it get better? Thank you all so much for being here. I will see you next week. Maybe we'll come up with a different topic. Maybe we'll just talk about whatever's going on in the moment. If you have any suggestions, I'm happy to play with them. You can email me at pattyalfonso.sexy. How does it get better? If you want to play with me and go a little bit deeper, I still have the Creating Magic with Chaos Club that is kicking ass right now, if I do say so myself. We have our next energetic contribution coming up this Wednesday. Yay. How does it get better? Have an amazing Saturday, an amazing day, an amazing evening, wherever you are in the world. I adore you. I am so grateful for you. I will see you all next week. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.